Welcome everyone. Myself and Danny here from ESBR Boxing. We return today with, I suppose, some Danny slipping and sliding, and he will be in a minute because we are dealing with a difficult, I suppose, contentious subject today on the subject matter we're going to take a little look at, and that is, I suppose, Connor Benn, but not just Connor Benn. Obviously, the issue that's happened there. We're talking about Connor Benn versus Manny Pacquiao. Will it happen? Should it happen? Are the sort of main themes. Why is it happening? Are the main themes we're going to talk about in this meeting. So, Danny, first and foremost, before we kick in, before we get started, I'm going to come to you and ask you how you're doing. Are you well? And are you ready? Are you ready to brace yourself for what we're about to talk about?
I'm ready, mate. I'm ready. As I said to you, we've just recorded another video, bit down in the dumps. That's perked me up massively. So ready to go for this one. Big topic, contentious topic. Looking forward to breaking down with you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, let's get right into it. So, over the last, I suppose momentum behind this fight has kind of been. It started off, loosely being talked about, was kind of dismissed, but over time it seems to be motoring on. Connor Benn, I think it's fair to say he's had some issues over the last few months, obviously with drug tests, the fight with Chris Eubank Jr. falling away. Obviously, he's been re-welcomed back into the rankings over the last couple of weeks, and there's also been talk about Eddie Hearn looking for locations and licenses for his next fight. On top of that, who would he come back with? Will it be a challenging fight? Will it be, one to sort of get the rust of the last few months off of him? But Manny Pacquiao's emerged as a kind of lucrative opponent for Conor Benn to fight. A surprising one in many corners, given that he's 44 years old now and has not been in a competitive fight since August 2021 when he lost to Yordenis Ugas. But Danny, let's just get into it first and foremost. Your thoughts. I'm not going to ask you a question. I'm not going to ask you any questions. Just give me your thoughts actually on this as a potential fight. Is it one you sort of welcoming, or is it one that you think shouldn't be happening? Just take us through, I suppose, a minute or two of your general reaction to this as it seems to snowball towards occurring.
So we obviously first discussed the possibility of doing a video on this last night, and obviously there had been rumblings of it probably for a few weeks now. Sort of seeing a bit more picking up the pace in terms of Pacquiao's manager publicly stating that they want the fight. They're waiting for Eddie Hearn. Ben tweeting that it'd be the biggest fight of the year. Let's go and all this. And I seen that, and my normal reaction was, "This is a disgrace. This shouldn't happen. Boxing shooting itself in the foot again. He's 44, not fought in 2 years." And as we've got close to the video, I've had to admit to myself, I would absolutely be buzzing for this. It should not happen. Obviously, it's like alleged drug cheat, 44-year-old legend of the sport, should have retired 10 years before he did, hasn't fought in 2 years, fighting because he's skint, basically. It's like everything wrong with the sport, but I would be absolutely all for it. I would watch it. I would pay for it. I don't pay for much. And I would imagine it, like Conor Benn, like getting booed. Well, I suppose it'd probably be in Saudi Arabia or something, so the atmosphere wouldn't be like as raucous. But just imagine the optics of this, like probably the most, like, I don't want to say hated, but like in terms of reputations in boxing, there's no one who's probably lower than Connor Benn at the minute. Certainly in the UK, I would say worldwide, Manny Pacquiao, this like proper icon of the sport, 7-weight world champion, like a senator, whatever, like all the good PR, and just like that contrast with all that's hanging around, like that would be such a big fight, In any credible sport, it obviously shouldn't happen. Boxing here, so why even bother having that conversation? But no, that's my thoughts on it. Absolutely shouldn't happen. Like, deplorable if it does, but I would be absolutely buzzing for it.
The thing is, Danny, I'm glad you said that because I'm very much in the take my money camp for this fight as well. Frankly, I mean, there's obviously, like you say, there's given the sort of narratives around Conor Benn, Manny Pacquiao, it's almost like that sort of like Gatlin versus Bolt. You got these sort of like kind of cross themes kind of colliding here. And I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I'd be up for it. I would watch it. I would pay for it as well. So yeah, well, I suppose in many ways we can complain, but we're the problem, Danny. We're the problem and the solution. So we're talking a bit off camera. You said obviously Manny Pacquiao there. I was 62, 62 victories, 39 KOs, 8 losses, 2 draws. Been involved with numerous champions through numerous weights, cleared out divisions, etc., etc. So his last fight, as we said, 2021 against Yordenis Ugas at welterweight, where he lost by unanimous decision. We spoke before off air. You obviously told me you'd seen that fight as well. Given what you know from the Manny Pacquiao then versus, I suppose, the Conor Benn that's 21-0 but has I suppose victories. I mean, to be honest, Manny Pacquiao fits into his record. He's got victories over guys that were previously decent. Chris Algieri being one of them. Recently, there's even Van Heerden, Sammy Vargas, these sort of guys. So he's used to fighting guys that pass their best. But do you think, given what we saw Manny Pacquiao two years ago, that there's, say it takes place at welterweight, do you think there's anything that Manny Pacquiao can do? Do you reckon he has enough to beat that version of Ben that we've seen recently, or do you think that Connor Benn will be too young and have too much for him?
It's an interesting one. I watched that Pacquiao Ugas fight, and he didn't win a round, didn't look competitive in the round. Looked well past his sell by date. And he actually went into that fight as quite a significant favourite with the bookies. It was like 1-3. He was a clear favourite and didn't get anywhere near. Regards to your question on how he would cope with the Connor Benn like we saw recently, you've got to ask yourself, are we going to see that Connor Benn? Like, what's been behind that Connor Benn? Say no more. I think if he did run into that version of Connor Benn, he would get badly hurt. Like, let's make no bones about it. Like, he's obviously a far superior boxer, but like a charged up Connor Benn that we saw, like I know he was fighting fighters well past their sell by date, and I've always been critical of who he's fought because I still don't think he's beat a live British level fighter, to be honest. But like, even just the freshness, the speed, the power. A 44-year-old who's had 73 fights or whatever you just said there and not fought in 2 years. Like, I mean, it would be one of the great feel-good moments in boxing if it did happen and Pacquiao did pull it off, even though Pacquiao's like 100% a drugs cheat as well. But still, it's mad how like your perception's different. But I think it would, if you do see the version of Connor Benn we've saw over the last couple of years, certainly since the what was his name, the Formella victory, I think it would be not a long night, but a very hard night for Pacquiao.
Danny, I'm glad you mentioned that because some people have suggested that Manny Pacquiao's rise through the weights may not have been as entirely natural as down to initially starving and then finding an American diet, putting some weight on and charging through the weights. And it's a lovely euphemism there where you were talking about a fully charged Connor Benn, which can mean many things when he's plugged into whatever he's plugged into. I mean, let me just ask you a question. Morally, yourself, I mean, boxing is obviously kind of an immoral, if not amoral sport. Do you think Manny Pacquiao should in some ways be allowed to charge himself up in any way at 44 years old before coming into this contest? Do you think why not have released them both to the supplements that are available and we can see what happens? Or do you think, I mean, Pacquiao at 44 years old with that body and that wear and tear would almost be at a disadvantage if he wasn't allowed to in some way charge himself? How do you kind of see the prep for this going? Do you think there should be a kind of rigorous, I suppose with Connor Benn being involved, there might well be a rigorous kind of drugs and sanctioning and sort of testing policy in place? Or do you think, frankly, let that go, fight somewhere where it's not as strong, and let's just see what happens?
I often think about this, not just for this fight or boxing, but like even in general. Like imagine an Olympics where they've just said, right, blast away, do what you want, just to see like how much of a freak show and how much like pushed. I think judging by we saw just at the time recording, obviously the full interview with Pierce Morgan's not out yet, but it looks as if Connor Benn's definitely going down the route of continuing to deny it, trying to repair his image. So I don't think going into a fight where it's essentially just a free for all would be the best move. They'll have to have VADA testing. Like imagine Eddie Hearn trying to defend the lack of VADA testing in this fight. It would be a spectacle, 100%. It might not even be. We might just see the versions of them that we saw for years. Unchanged. But I don't think so. I think they'll have to make a point of having very vigorous drug testing, even for Ben's sake as well. Like, I hate to keep slating Pacquiao here, but at 44, like he'll probably come in ripped to absolute shreds. Just jumped off the sofa. But no, I think they'll have fairly stringent drug testing in place, unfortunately.
No, I agree with you. I think it'd be nice to just open up. Let's have, in the undercard, forget boxing. Why not have a fully roided Usain Bolt run 100 meters in about 4 seconds? You have to sort of slow it down to see him. But I think you made, and I'm going to give you credit here because this was your point, and you said it off camera. So I'm going to now let you say it on camera because it's a very good one. You were talking about repairing image. Do you think that in some ways Manny Pacquiao is possibly the best fight for Conor Benn? Were Conor Benn to just embrace this kind of like heel image, as they say in wrestling, this bad boy image, kind of like we saw, like you said as well. I'll give you credit for this as well. We saw Mayweather do as well. I mean, there's been talk of Ben fighting other kind of established and you know and favoured fighters like Brooke Khan, just beating up any sort of British boxing hero that he can get his hands on that passes sell by day. Do you think that rather than repair his image, actually Pacquiao's a great opponent for Ben to find a new image that could also be more lucrative? Do you think he should embrace that, or do you think he should carry on with this kind of, I suppose, what I think to a certain degree will be a failed attempt, like the Piers Morgan interview, to repair the image that he had prior?
Mate, 100%. You've described it perfectly. It will be a failed attempt amongst not just hardcores but casuals as well. Honestly, there's no one who's ever gonna. I say no one. A minute percentage will ever believe Connor Benn's like version of events here. Never. Like even when I speak to like casual friends about it, like they're even seeing the shit about eggs and laughing at it and stuff. And that's honestly such a waste of time, in my opinion. In terms of the point about going down the heel route and being the bad guy, like I'm 100% all for it. We've not had that in the UK probably since Eubank Senior, really, in terms of like a proper star. Like Joshua was loved, Khan was loved. No one was tuning in to see Khan get beat. Obviously, the fragility was a selling point, but it wasn't out of like any dislike for Amir Khan. Tyson Fury's loved by the masses somehow. But I think this, like, if Ben was just to go down the route of not obviously admitting to fucking cheating or taking drugs or whatever, but just like, right, I'm done, apologise and believe what you want, and then goes out to like Saudi Arabia, knocks out Pacquiao cold, like this lamb to the slaughter, like you just brash shouting at cameras after, and then like you can imagine the traction on social media that would get. People would be effing and blinding and this, and then as you say, just go down the route of like beating up old popular fighters. Get Kell Brook in and admitted to struggling with his mental health, iron him out. You know what I mean? People would pay to see it. Because I think if he keeps like, I've seen it already described a lot on Twitter and stuff as like playing the mental health card, and you hesitate to accuse any one of that. Especially when I'm hoping to get accredited to Eddie Hearn shows in the future. So I can't speak on that, but I don't think it's going down too well, and I think he would be better just to stop pleading his innocence so much, just and sort of give a bit of like a sod you to the people who are still detracting, because it's not going to go away anytime soon.
No, I'd agree. So let's say then that we've had the event, like we said, we've had the Usain Bolt running on the undercard. Conor Benn's destroyed Manny Pacquiao. He's gone to the corner, Stone Cold style, snatched a couple of eggs from the crowd, smashed them on his own head, and he's saying we're coming back now either to potentially the UK or potentially the sort of world scene. Where would you pitch Conor Benn off this? Because you were saying obviously that his record seems to be a bit patchy. If you're looking around the kind of British level, like the sort of Denzel Bentley kind of like area, those sort of fighters, or do you reckon go straight in on the sort of world scene? Obviously, he's ranked, he's quite a high ranking, even on the sort of ring rankings, probably higher than I think. Well, higher than definitely I would argue that he deserves. But there's obviously people like your Dennis Ugas around, even still above him. Spence, obviously Crawford, Jerron Ennis, those sort of names. Where would you put Conor Benn? We'll finish here. Like, so let's say like a year after maybe this Manny Pacquiao fight, he's come back, looks still fresh. Where are you taking him if you're Eddie Hearn? Providing that you can get a license anywhere, how are you pitching him, and where are you pushing him?
It's a tricky one because, like it or love it, he's still such a big potential earner for Eddie Hearn, and I don't think he's beat a decent level live body. Beat like Van Heerden, a decent name, Algeria, a decent name, but well beyond their sell by date, well beyond. So I think they have to be really careful again, because he's not. I don't think he's proven much of a level. Like Echo Esserman's resume for me is far more impressive. Like good, solid British wins who are in there with ambition in their prime, like Chris Congo, Samuel Antwi. Esserman for me would beat everyone that Ben's beat, like without a doubt. But there's no real like business sense that you can't put him back in a British level now. Like he is a superstar. So I think they have to be really careful and just sort of continue what they've done, but in like a greater scale in terms of targeting fighters who are big names but slightly past their best, and hoping Ben can continue to improve. So like maybe like a Keith Thurman down the line. I know there's some chat of him fighting Spence. maybe a Ugas, he's must be 34, 35 now as well, and just trying to pick off sort of vulnerable world level fighters who are slightly on the decline, because like Virgil Ortiz, Stanionis, Boots Ennis, even the likes of Bataya, but you'd be keeping them well away from them. Like no real financial reward for doing it, certainly in the UK, and they would beat him. And then just when you're ready to think, right, he's say when he's 28, 29, let's proper cash in, then you can throw him in at the deep end for a world title. And with the way the division is, if Spence moves up, like that'll be 3 of the world titles can come vacant, and I'm sure Eddie Hearn would be able to pull a few strings and get Connor Benn a vacant title shot, no problem at all. He seems to have a very good relationship with Mauricio Sullivan in the WBC, so we'll see. But I wouldn't be putting him in. Like you can't go back in the domestic level or anything now, I don't think.
No, I totally agree. I think that marketing wise, that level has flown. I'll also agree with you. I think he should be looking at a fighter so past that sell by date, potentially by a few years, building, having some lucrative nights. Maybe after Pacquiao, we go after Ricky Hatton. We can go after like a Junior Witter, one of those guys. See what condition they're in. Beat up some more cherished guys around that weight, British cherished, boxers. Danny, thank you very much for your time. I'm gonna, like you say, Connor Benn's on Piers Morgan this evening. He's going to be allowed due process. I'm going to give you due process here and say, is there anything else you'd like to add to those watching? Or if not, would you please like to bid everyone farewell and maybe send a good luck message to Manny Pacquiao and hope he can return safely?
I don't know if Manny Pacquiao watches ESBR, so maybe I hold off on that, but just echo what you said. Thank everyone for watching. Comment, subscribe, all the usual stuff.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Danny. And again, thank you guys for watching.